Welcome back to Show and Tech. Today on the channel, we're going to be talking about 3 reasons why you may not want to buy the AirPods Pro if you are somebody who's primarily an Android user. Now, I've been lucky enough to have the AirPods Pro now for just over 2 weeks, and I've found a lot of issues with the AirPods Pros that I didn't really expect before having bought it. Even though I'm somebody that reads and watches a lot of reviews and reads through various different tech blogs, I found that a lot of the information in regards to AirPods Pros and how they work on Androids really wasn't that accurate. So again, we're going to break down my top 3 reasons as to why you may want to reconsider the AirPods Pros if you're someone that uses an Android phone. Reason number 1, the design. Now, obviously these are designed for Apple users in mind. This is something that's created to easily be integrated into the iOS or Apple ecosystem. So if you're someone that has, the Apple Watch, an iPad, an iMac, all of those other Apple devices, then this is something that integrates very, very easily for you. They've really gone to no great lengths to make sure that it's something that works on devices outside of the Apple realm, other than just providing regular Bluetooth 5.0. Now, what I mean by that is that there's still no Apple endorsed app that works on Android. It's kind of just a mishmash of people who've made their own apps in order to get the AirPods to work somewhat correctly on Android devices. But at the end of the day, there's really nothing that comes from Apple that's going to make it work as seamlessly on your Android device as on an Apple device. So for example, in my last video, I went over a couple of different apps that are out there, some that were free, some that were premium paid apps, to see which ones really accurately even just show the battery life on the AirPods. And none of them were as accurate as just opening up the AirPods and checking on an Apple device. Secondly, one of the most important things is, based on this new design, you're able to toggle through 3 settings. You have the ANC, which is active noise cancel, you have the ambient sound mode, and then you have off. Now, it kind of sucks out of the box with an Android phone. You're only able to access 2 of those modes, which is the ANC, the noise cancel, as well as the ambient mode. Now, that's all well and good, except for the fact that the audio quality is actually the best when you have it set to off, and the battery life is also the best when you have it set to off. So out of the box, as an Android user, you're missing out on that level of efficiency. Just to know that I'm going on a long trip or a long flight and I want these to work the whole time and I want to have the best possible sound quality, you really don't get that. Reason number 2 is the sound quality. So we kind of touched on it before, but for the amount that you pay in order to get these, you would expect that the sound quality would be a lot better than it actually is. I'm not an audiophile. I really hate when people use that word, but I'm not an audiophile. I'm not somebody who's the best at analyzing sound and figuring out if it's the best sounding thing, but I feel like the average person can put on a pair of headphones and figure out very quickly if they sound good or not. Now, that's not to say that these don't have a decent quality sound, but what needs to be said is the fact that the sound really isn't that much different than what comes out of the Gen 1 and Gen 2 AirPods. The difference is the silicone tips that are on the AirPods Pros that creates that seal that allows the music to go directly into your air canal with no leakage. Now, the reason why I mention that is because a lot of the reviews that I read, I found were constantly talking about the sound quality of these relative to the other AirPods, not relative to other devices. And so when you start to do that, it's kind of biased and has people kind of thinking that these are a lot greater than they are. So the quality on these isn't really that fantastic. It's nothing to write home about, and I really think that there's various other options out there that'll work better on an Android phone for a lot lower of a price. Now, the most important thing, and the thing that bothered me the most about these while using them on my Android device, was the fact that the sound volume is low, almost painfully low. I would use these to walk my dog. I used them a couple times during warm-ups for Ultimate Frisbee, and I found that I wished every single time that the music was just a little bit louder. If I tried to listen to a podcast while walking the dog and the car went by, it became very difficult to even hear what was being said during the podcast. So you lose out on that maximum volume. For whatever reason, again, they decided not to kind of optimize these for other devices outside of the Apple kind of walled garden. So because there's no actual volume toggle on the AirPods themselves, you're only going to get the maximum volume that your Android device allows you to get. And there's a couple ways around that to kind of increase it a little bit, as mentioned in my previous video, but it's nowhere near the sound volume that you get while you're using an Apple device. Now, for me, luckily, I'm someone that has an iPhone SE just kind of sitting around that I can use to connect to these and listen to music and get that max volume. But I think the average consumer isn't going to be walking around with two phones in their pockets, one Android and one Apple. And I find that because of the fact that a lot of YouTube reviewers are people that have these phones and have one Apple and one Android, for them, their experience overall is a lot better because they're able to go back and forth between their devices and use the one that's best for them. The average Android user is not going to have an Apple phone, and so they're going to miss out on a lot of functionality. Lastly, reason number 3 is the price. These are priced in Canada at $329 plus tax. In the States, they're around $250 US, which is a lot of money. And I think for that same price, you can get a pair of earbuds that not only sound just as good as these, but look just as good and have the same call quality as well. Because I know that a lot of people will talk about how great the microphones and the call quality is using the AirPods, and that's kind of their reason why they shot for these instead of other things. But at this point, with how competitive the market is, there are so many other options out there. You've got the Samsung Galaxy Buds, and while those don't have the best microphone for call quality, they're still relatively cheap. You've got the Anker Soundcore Liberty Air 2s, which have a very similar look, a little bit longer of a stem, but the microphone quality is there. The sound quality is much better, much louder. You've got the Razer earbuds that just came out recently. So there's so many other options, and a lot of those options actually have their own dedicated apps so that you can adjust the equalizers and get the sound tuned just right. Out of the box, whether you're an Android or an Apple user, there's no EQ settings to adjust on these. You kind of just get what you get and try not to get upset and hope that it works out. But at the end of the day, I would expect for this price a little bit more from Apple. And so, I mean, that's pretty much it. Those are my 3 reasons. There's a couple more that we could discuss, but really it just comes down to what they were designed for, who they were designed for, the price of them, and the fact that you can get very similar products for half the price. So my hope is over the next couple of weeks to start reviewing those other options that people have, just to kind of give you a fair, unbiased opinion from someone who's spending the money just like you are. Because at the end of the day, what it comes down to is trying to make the best, most informed decision. And if you're someone like me who picked up the AirPods Pros based on the reviews that you read, and the fact that a lot of those reviews mention that, you know, while you do lose some functionality, they still work great on Android. That to me was kind of upsetting. So hopefully this video helped you out. I'm not here to bash Apple or try to steer you away from AirPods necessarily. If you just love the aesthetic of these and you love the convenience of them and the wireless charging and all those things that Apple jams into their boxes, then all the power to you. I'm just trying to let you know what to expect if you are an Android user. Feel free to hit that thumbs up and click that subscribe. Much love as always. Throwing up 2 of them, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.